I remember that morning clearly. The air was still and the house smelled of jasmine. There was peace in that little home, the kind that comes after years of holding a family together through thick and thin. But sometimes, my dear ones, peace can be so fragile that one harsh word can shatter it forever. This is the story of a mother named Evelyn, a woman who gave everything she had to her son, only to lose him to silence and misunderstanding. Yet it's also a story of forgiveness, of how a mother's heart never truly closes, even when it's been broken. Evelyn lived in a small town, not far from the hills. Her house stood by a row of maple trees, and every autumn, the leaves would fall like golden rain. She'd sweep them away with her old wooden broom, humming softly, because that's what mothers do. They keep their hands busy, even when their hearts are heavy. Her son Daniel was the light of her life. She raised him alone after her husband passed away early. There were nights she'd work double shifts at the diner, then come home and still make his favorite soup before waking him for school. They weren't rich, not even close, but love made their small home feel full. Evelyn often said, "I may not have much, but I have my boy, and that's more than enough." And for years that was true. Daniel grew up gentle, thoughtful, and loyal to his mother. He'd sit by her on the porch and tell her his dreams, that he'd become an engineer, buy her a little car so she wouldn't have to walk everywhere, maybe even fix up the old garden shed for her knitting. Those were small dreams, but in Evelyn's eyes they were everything. Then came the day he brought Claire home. She was young, beautiful, and had the kind of confidence that fills a room. Evelyn welcomed her warmly. She was just happy her son had found someone who made him smile that way. At first, everything seemed perfect. Claire would help Evelyn in the kitchen, calling her mom sweetly, asking for old recipes, helping set the table. Evelyn told her friends at church, "Oh, my Daniel has found a wonderful girl." But over time, small things began to change. Claire stopped visiting the kitchen. She'd sigh when Evelyn talked too long, or roll her eyes quietly when Daniel wasn't looking. Little things, tiny, almost invisible moments that start to eat away at peace. Evelyn ignored it at first. She thought maybe it was just new marriage stress, or Claire adjusting to life under one roof. She told herself, "Don't be sensitive. She's just young." But as months passed, the distance grew. Daniel stopped coming home for dinner. He said they were busy, that Claire needed rest, that he'd call soon. The calls came less often. When Evelyn called, Claire would answer and say, "He's busy, Mom. I'll tell him you called." And somehow, those words always sounded softer on the surface but carried a coldness underneath. One Sunday morning, Evelyn baked Daniel's favorite apple pie. She carried it carefully to their house, just a few blocks away. When she knocked, she heard laughter inside. Claire opened the door, her smile stiff. "Oh, Evelyn, you should have called first," she said. Evelyn smiled, holding up the pie. "I just wanted to surprise my son." Claire hesitated. "Daniel's resting. Maybe later, okay?" For a moment, Evelyn saw something flicker in Claire's eyes. Guilt, maybe, or irritation. But she didn't argue. She simply nodded and walked back home, the pie still warm in her hands, the steam fading into the cool afternoon. That evening, she sat alone at her kitchen table, slicing a piece for herself. The sweetness didn't taste the same. She whispered softly, "Maybe tomorrow." But tomorrow didn't come in the way she hoped. Weeks passed, and Daniel's visits became rare. Evelyn would see him drive by sometimes, his car slowing near her house, but he never stopped. She'd wave from the window, and sometimes he'd lift his hand half-heartedly. It was like watching the moon drift behind clouds. You could still see the light, but it felt farther away. Then came the day that changed everything. Daniel finally called. His voice was tense, unfamiliar. "Mom, we need to talk." Evelyn's heart fluttered, part joy, part worry. When he arrived, Claire was with him. They sat at the table, the same table where Daniel once drew crayon pictures of rockets and stars. Daniel's eyes avoided hers. Claire spoke first. "Evelyn," she said, "we've been thinking. It's time for you to live your own life. Maybe move somewhere peaceful, a place you can rest." Evelyn frowned softly. "I'm fine here. This is my home." Claire's smile tightened. "It's just we need some space, Daniel and I. You call often, you drop by unannounced. It's affecting our privacy." The words hung heavy in the air. Daniel still wouldn't look at his mother. Evelyn whispered, "Is that how you feel too, Daniel?" He hesitated. "Mom, you've always been there for me, but things are different now. I have to think about Claire." That moment, that sentence broke something inside her. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just looked at her son and said softly, "I understand." She stood up, walked to the window, and stared at the maple trees swaying in the wind. It was autumn again, the leaves falling just like before. Only this time it wasn't golden. It was gray. When they left, the house felt heavier than ever. Silence filled every corner. The kind of silence that hums like a wound that refuses to heal. And that's where Evelyn's journey into loneliness began. After that day, Evelyn's world grew smaller. Her mornings, once filled with warmth and chatter, became silent. She still made coffee for two out of habit, one cup for herself, one for Daniel, though his cup stayed untouched. There's something strange about loneliness, my dear ones. It doesn't come all at once. It creeps in slowly, through the empty chair at the table, the quiet phone, the sound of your own voice echoing back at you when you say good morning to no one. Evelyn still tried. Every Sunday she'd send Daniel a message. "Hope you're both doing well. I made your favorite stew today." Sometimes he'd reply with a short "Thanks, Mom." Most weeks there was nothing at all. Church, people still asked about Daniel. "Does he visit often?" She'd smile politely and say, "He's busy with work." Because mothers, they protect their children even when their hearts are breaking. But one evening, Evelyn saw something that made her heart ache in a different way. She was out for groceries when she spotted Daniel and Claire across the street, laughing, holding hands, looking carefree. She wanted to run up and hug him to ask how he'd been. But before she could move, Claire leaned in close to Daniel, whispered something, and he turned his face away, pretending not to see her. Evelyn stood there for a long time, the bag of apples heavy in her hands. Not because of the weight, but because of the memory that once Daniel used to run toward her whenever he saw her from afar. That night, she cried quietly for the first time in years. Not loud sobs, just soft tears like rain slipping through cracks in old glass. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I've become a burden." And when a mother starts blaming herself, that's the deepest kind of sorrow. Weeks turned into months. The silence stretched, long and unforgiving. Then one morning, Evelyn received a letter in the mail. It was from Daniel, short, polite, almost businesslike. It said, "Mom, we've decided to move to another city for a while. Work opportunity. Please take care of yourself. We'll call when we're settled." There was no return address. Evelyn read the letter over and over until the ink almost faded from her tears. She folded it carefully, placed it in a small wooden box where she kept her husband's old watch, and sat in silence for a long, long time. Her neighbors noticed she didn't go out much anymore. Mrs. Turner from next door would sometimes knock and say, "Evelyn, come over for tea." But she'd always smile faintly and say, "Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow, that word became her comfort, her excuse, and her wish. One rainy afternoon, Evelyn decided to tidy up Daniel's old room. It still looked the same, the old desk, his childhood trophies, the faded posters on the wall. She opened a drawer and found a photo. Daniel at 10 years old, holding her hand at the beach. Both of them smiling, the sunlight catching his hair. She held the photo to her chest and whispered, "Where did we go wrong, my boy?" As she stood there, she remembered something. The last words Claire had said before leaving that day months ago. "You call too much. You visit too often." At the time, Evelyn thought it was just frustration. But now, she started wondering if there was more behind those words. something hidden, something that had been building quietly, like a storm behind a closed door. One evening, Evelyn went out to buy some fabric from the local market. While waiting for the bus, she overheard two women talking nearby. "Did you hear?" one said. "Daniel and his wife moved to the city. I heard his mother was too controlling." The other replied, "Yes, Claire told my cousin she could barely breathe with her around." Evelyn froze. She didn't know these women, but the words pierced through her like glass. Her breath trembled as she turned away, pretending she hadn't heard. But inside, her world was crumbling. When she got home, she sat by the window, her hands shaking slightly. Controlling. The word echoed in her mind again and again. Had she really been that way? She thought of all the times she'd called Daniel, not to intrude, but to check if he'd eaten, if he was resting. Was that wrong? She'd been a mother all her life. How do you just stop caring? That night, Evelyn wrote a letter. Said, "My dear Daniel, if I ever made you feel suffocated, I'm sorry. I only ever wanted to see you happy. If staying away gives you peace, I'll accept it. But remember, my door will always be open. And so will my heart." She didn't mail it. She just placed it on her bedside table, because deep down she knew he might never see it. But somehow writing it made the air feel lighter. Months passed again. The seasons changed, spring to summer, summer to fall. Evelyn's house stood still through it all, like a photograph that time forgot. Then one afternoon, a knock came at her door. Her heart leapt. She thought maybe, just maybe, it was Daniel. But it wasn't. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Turner, holding an envelope. "Evelyn, this came for you by mistake. Looks like it's from Daniel's workplace." Evelyn took it, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a company newsletter, the kind that listed promotions and staff achievements. And there, under Project Success Team, was Daniel's name. He'd done well. Her eyes softened with pride. But just below his name, she saw Claire's, listed as Public Relations Lead. It hit her then, they were working together. That meant Claire was part of everything Daniel heard, everything he believed. And if she truly had turned him against her, it meant Daniel lived in a world painted by someone else's words. Still, Evelyn didn't hate her. She didn't even feel anger, just a quiet, aching sadness. She whispered softly, "One day he'll see the truth. One day." A year later, fate began to stir in quiet ways. One morning, Evelyn received a call from the local post office. "Ma'am," the voice said, "there's a package here under your name. Looks like it's from out of town." She went to pick it up. A small brown box tied neatly with string. The return address was unfamiliar. Inside, she found a framed photo, Daniel and Claire standing beside a newborn baby. There was a note, "Meet your grandson, Liam. He's a week old. We hope to visit soon." Evelyn's hands trembled as she held the picture. She traced the baby's face gently with her fingers, tears welling in her eyes. A grandson, her heart felt alive again. She whispered, "Maybe this is God's way of giving me another chance." Every day after that, she'd talk to the photo as if the baby could hear her. She'd say, "Liam, Grandma's waiting for you." Weeks passed, but no visit came. Then one night another letter arrived, this one short and cold. "Mom, we've decided it's best if we keep some distance for now. Please understand. Claire thinks it's confusing for the baby to be around too many opinions. We'll stay in touch later." Evelyn felt her chest tighten. Her eyes blurred as she read the words again and again. She sat down on the porch, looking at the night sky, and whispered, "I don't understand, Daniel. Not anymore. You see, my dear ones, sometimes life doesn't give us clear answers. People we love change. They drift away, carried by misunderstanding, pride, or fear. And when that happens, all we can do is wait, not with bitterness, but with faith that truth will find its way home." Evelyn did exactly that. She waited, not with anger, but with quiet hope. Every evening, she lit a candle by her window, one single flame that flickered softly through the night. Neighbors said they could see it from the street, glowing faintly like a tiny promise that refused to fade. And maybe that's why fate noticed her again. Because one day years later the past came knocking. Years had passed, and Evelyn had grown quieter with time. Her hair had turned silver, her hands softer with age, and her eyes, once filled with light, now carried a kind of calm sadness. But beneath that stillness, hope still lived. She never stopped believing that one day her son would remember the mother who never gave up on him. Every morning she still brewed 2 cups of tea. One for herself, one for the son who never came. She said it helped her keep faith alive. Then one winter afternoon, as she sat by the window mending a blanket, she saw a car pull up near her house. First she thought it was a delivery man. But when the door opened and a little boy stepped out, followed by a man she knew better than her own reflection, Evelyn's heart stopped. It was Daniel, her son. He looked older now, tired, maybe even a little lost, but still the same boy in her heart. And that little boy beside him, she didn't need anyone to tell her. That was Liam, her grandson. For a moment, Evelyn couldn't move. She sat frozen, watching them walk up the path. She had imagined this moment so many times, but now that it was here, she didn't know whether to cry or smile. Daniel knocked softly on the door. When she opened it, he looked at her with uncertain eyes. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. Evelyn's voice trembled. "Hello, Daniel." He hesitated, then motioned to the boy beside him. "This is Liam. He's 6 now." Evelyn knelt down to meet her grandson's eyes. "Hello, Liam. I'm your grandma," she whispered. The child smiled shyly and handed her a small paper drawing. On it was a picture of a house with 3 stick figures holding hands. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful," she said softly. When they stepped inside, everything felt both familiar and new. Daniel looked around the old house, at the family photos still hanging on the wall. One frame caught his attention, the picture of him as a child, holding his mother's hand at the beach. He stared at it for a long time. Finally, he turned to her. "Mom, I owe you an apology," he said. Evelyn froze, her heart thudding softly. "Apology?" she whispered. "For what, dear?" Daniel sighed deeply. "For believing things that weren't true. For staying away all these years. For letting someone else decide what kind of son I should be." Evelyn didn't speak. She just looked at him, waiting. Daniel continued, his voice thick with guilt. "Claire told me, she told me you were jealous. That you didn't want us to be happy. That you were always trying to control me. I believed her, Mom. I was blind. And I'm so sorry." The words hung between them like a fragile bridge built out of pain and truth. Evelyn's eyes softened. "Oh, Daniel, I never wanted to control you. I just wanted to be part of your life." "I know," he whispered. "I see that now. Claire and I were not together anymore. It took me too long to realize how she twisted things. She said things to make me choose between you and her, and I." He stopped, lowering his head. "I chose wrong." Evelyn reached out and touched his hand gently. "There's no right or wrong in love, Daniel. Only lessons. Maybe we both had to learn something the hard way." Daniel looked at her, his eyes glistening. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "You've already had it," she said softly. "From the moment you were born." For the first time in years, Daniel broke down. He took her hand, and she pulled him into an embrace. It wasn't the kind of hug filled with excitement or noise. It was quiet, trembling, full of everything they both kept inside for years. When they pulled apart, Evelyn looked at her grandson and smiled. "Would you like some pie, Liam? Your father used to love it when he was your age." Liam grinned. "Apple pie?" Evelyn chuckled softly. "The very same." She went to the kitchen, her hands steady, her heart lighter than it had been in a long, long time. As she mixed the flour and sugar, she felt the rhythm of something she thought she had lost, belonging. When they sat down at the table later, Daniel looked around quietly. Everything was still the same. The lace curtains, the old clock, the little vase of flowers by the window. It felt like time had waited for him. "Mom," he said suddenly, "why did you never call me again? I kept waiting for you to reach out." Evelyn smiled gently. "Because every time I called, I heard someone else's voice. I wanted you to come back because your heart told you to. Not because I begged you." Daniel swallowed hard. "You always knew how to love better than I did." Evelyn shook her head. "No, my boy. I just never stopped trying." They sat in silence for a while, the kind that feels peaceful instead of painful. Liam finished his slice of pie, and Evelyn smiled at him fondly. "Do you like it, sweetheart?" He nodded eagerly. "It tastes like happiness." Evelyn laughed softly. "That's a good taste to remember." Later that evening, as Daniel prepared to leave, he turned at the door. "Mom, would you come visit us sometime? Liam would love that." Evelyn smiled, though her eyes glistened. "I'd love to, Daniel." He hugged her again, this time holding her tight, as if afraid to let go. And in that embrace, years of distance melted away. When they drove off, Evelyn stood on the porch long after their car disappeared down the road. She looked up at the sky, whispered a small prayer of gratitude, and smiled. That night, she took out the old wooden box where she'd kept Daniel's letter, the one that had once ended their closeness. She unfolded it and placed the newest photo beside it, the one of Daniel, Claire, and baby Liam. Then she added another picture taken that day, a photo Daniel had snapped on his phone of her, him, and Liam smiling together. She looked at those three pictures, the past, the pain, and the peace, and felt something she hadn't felt in years: completeness. As she put the box away, she whispered, "Some stories don't end with goodbye. They end with coming home." And that night, for the first time in a long while, Evelyn slept peacefully. After that winter day, Evelyn's house felt alive again. The silence that once haunted her walls was replaced by laughter, soft, hesitant at first, but growing warmer each time Daniel and little Liam came to visit. Every Sunday became their tradition. Daniel would bring groceries, Liam would run around chasing the old cat, and Evelyn would bake her famous apple pie, the one that now had 3 generations of memories folded into its crust. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when Daniel still looked distant, moments when Evelyn could see the shadow of regret in his eyes. But she never brought it up. She understood that healing takes time, and love, if it's real, doesn't rush anyone. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden together, Daniel turned to her and said quietly, "Mom, I went to see Claire." Evelyn looked up from her knitting, her hands still. "Oh?" she asked softly. He nodded. "She's been struggling. I didn't realize how much anger she carried. Not just toward you, but toward everyone. Her childhood wasn't easy either." Evelyn listened, saying nothing. Daniel continued, "She told me she was afraid I'd love you more than her, that she'd lose me to you." Evelyn sighed gently. "Poor thing," she murmured. "Fear makes people do unkind things sometimes." Daniel looked at her, almost surprised. "You don't hate her?" Evelyn smiled faintly. "Hate? No, my boy. I've learned something. Resentment is like holding on to a burning coal and waiting for the other person to feel the pain. It only burns you." He nodded slowly, his eyes wet. "I wish I'd understood that sooner." Evelyn reached for his hand. "The good thing about life, Daniel, is that it always gives us another chance. Sometimes we just have to be brave enough to take it." He squeezed her hand. "I want to do better this time, Mom. For Liam. For you." And he did. As the months rolled by, their bond deepened. Daniel began calling her every evening just to talk about his day, or to ask how her garden was doing. Sometimes they said nothing at all, just shared the comfort of knowing they were there. Liam grew up surrounded by stories of kindness, forgiveness, and family. He loved listening to his grandma talk about the old days, how she used to chase Daniel around the porch, how his father once tried to build a treehouse that fell apart in an hour. He'd laugh until his cheeks turned red, and Evelyn would think to herself, that's the sound of healing. One day, Daniel brought over a small envelope. "I have something for you," he said, smiling shyly. Inside was a photograph, one of those fancy printed ones from the studio. It showed Daniel, Liam, and Evelyn together, arms wrapped around each other, all smiling. At the bottom were the words, "Home is where forgiveness lives." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Daniel, it's beautiful," she whispered. He smiled. "I wanted you to know that I'll never let distance come between us again. You're my home, Mom." Evelyn placed the photo on her mantle beside her late husband's picture and whispered, "See, Harold? Our boy found his way back." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, she sat on the porch swing, the soft golden light touching her face. She thought of all the years she'd spent waiting, praying, and wondering if her love still mattered. Now she knew. Love doesn't vanish. It just waits for the right moment to be found again. She closed her eyes and smiled. Her heart, once heavy with loss, now beat with quiet peace. And if you'd asked her what forgiveness feels like, she would have said this. It feels like sitting under the same sky that once saw your tears, and realizing the same sky is now watching your joy. Evelyn's story wasn't one of revenge nor regret. It was one of grace. Because sometimes, the most powerful ending isn't a happy one. It's a healed one. You know, my dear ones, every story like Evelyn's reminds me that love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's tested. Sometimes it breaks our hearts before it shows us what it truly means. Evelyn never stopped loving her son, not even when he turned away. That kind of love, it's rare these days. Most people give up when they're hurt, but she didn't. She waited, not with bitterness, but with quiet faith that love would one day find its way home. And it did. It didn't come wrapped in apologies or big gestures. It came in small moments, a phone call, a visit, a shared laugh. That's how healing usually starts. Quietly, gently, like the first light of dawn after a long night. When I think of Evelyn, I think of strength in silence. She didn't shout her pain to the world. She carried it with grace, believing that forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It sets you free. We all go through moments when someone we love hurts us so deeply that we wonder if we'll ever be the same again. But maybe that's what love was meant to do. Soften us, not harden us. Maybe it's there to teach us that even in the darkest chapters, the heart still knows how to forgive. Evelyn forgave her daughter-in-law, not because she forgot what was done to her, but because she chose peace over pride. She chose to let go. And in doing so, she got her son back. That's the beauty of love, isn't it? When you give it away freely, somehow it finds its way back to you. So if you're listening tonight and you're holding on to something heavy, a grudge, a wound, a memory that still stings, maybe this is your sign to let it rest. Maybe you don't need an apology to begin healing. Maybe you just need to say, "I forgive you," and mean it, even if the other person never hears it. Evelyn found peace not when her son came home, but when she stopped waiting for him with anger in her heart. The day she forgave, that was the day she was free. And when Daniel walked back through her door, it wasn't just a reunion between a mother and her son. It was a promise from life itself, whispering, "See, love always finds a way." So tonight, as you close your eyes and think of the people who've hurt you, or the ones you miss, remember Evelyn's story. Remember that love doesn't vanish. It waits. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It heals it. And sometimes the ones who walked away are already on their way back, quietly, slowly learning their own lessons just like Daniel did. Life has a tender way of circling back to where the heart began. And maybe, just maybe, the ending you've been waiting for is already on its way. This is Granny June, thanking you for sharing another story with me tonight. Until next time, be kind to your heart, hold on to hope, and remember, love, no matter how lost it seems, always finds its way home.